So they give really very interesting perspective of medical missions. So I just want to invite up Bryan to share with you guys. Can you hear me?
One button on the top.
I turned it on. I don't know if it's because of the volume or maybe the position. If not, I'll just stand behind it. Yes, as Mike was saying, my name is Bryan, and I was born in New Jersey, raised basically in San Antonio, and met my wife, not down in Brazil, but I met her at a Christmas party at Oak Hills. So, and I was with a plate of sandwiches, and I asked her to hold them. And I heard an accent. I had just been asked by someone else to go down to Brazil. Had to, beef up on Brazil, and I was supposed to work with the youth for one summer. And my interest laid in linguistics. I've taught for the University of Mexico and also the Federal University down in Brazil. I taught with the Defense Language Institute, taught a prince of Saudi Arabia how to speak English. So my goal was to develop in that area, but I also had a degree in seminary, and so I had this bubbling faith, and I wanted to make sure that my life was, really used to the utmost. Some of you may be thinking about that too. You may be thinking, here I am in dental school, but I want to make sure that I use my skills, I use what God has allowed me to have access to, not just for myself, but use it for a greater purpose. And anyone who's ever gone on a short-term mission, or maybe even a longer short-term mission, I was talking with someone just recently. They had done a whole month of a short-term mission in Albania. Maybe you will be like a lot of people. Carrie, what is his name? Nelson is a part of this group, and he's been down to Natal several times. And also some other people that are a part of this group have been down to Natal. So what I thought would be interesting for talking with you this morning would be basically to hear my story from the other side. You get ready and you go, and a lot of times you don't know what happens after. And so I get to see what happens as people say goodbye. I get to see from behind the waves. And I get to see you guys off, get to greet you as you come, but see you off when you leave. And then I get to see the community impact, or the impact on the lives of certain people that were served or serviced by your generosity, by your organization, by your preparation, by that intense gift of medical, dental, nursing, and even we've had several people come just to be along with the group to help out with the children. I have a few pictures that I'd like to show, but my focus is not to sell our work. I think I want to use our work in Natal basically as just a general short-term mission opportunity. And I want to basically inspire you to think a little bit about a biblical principle at the very end. So I want to be quick, and maybe at the end, if you have any questions, I'd like to open that to you. I wanted to introduce my wife, though. Her name is Jannet. It's like Jannet with a chi at the end. So it's the Brazilian form of Jannet. I put as a title, maybe I don't know if you can hear me if I come out here. I'm used to being like in this type of atmosphere and talking very loud, so I don't really need a microphone. But the short term, the thing that I wanted to basically touch on as you eat your sandwich is that a short-term mission can have long-term effects. I was talking with a dentist last night and I said, why have you gone so many years to the short-term missions? And he said, basically because I need to remember who I really am. And so, which is an excellent byproduct of going on a short-term mission, especially someone who has not had a lot of contact with suffering and a lot of contact close up with poverty, utter poverty. And just the joy of being able to take out that tooth that's impacted and just stuck around in a little piece in your gums for a long time, or maybe a skin disease. I wanted to say that the long-term effect will ultimately only really come to fruition with your understanding that you have only one piece in something bigger. I was talking with Scott earlier, I said, about the Hippocratic Oath. Hippocratic Oath, yeah, not hypocrites. Some are being hypocrites when they say that. But actually, it's one of the only, and you get that usually like in the first year of your studies around it. And so you're at least giving lip service. Some people are giving lip service, but it's a good practice to understand I'm part of something bigger. It's not about me and the access to the studies and my knowledge and using it for my own life, but I am recognizing that I need to recognize the bigger purpose. And for some people, that's the most ethical you will ever get when you say that oath. And it's usually, you know, at some banquet. But there's also another oath here at CMDA that you go a little bit farther and explain what that bigger purpose is. And I would like to just touch on a few things of letting you see what the bigger purpose is that God is doing, what I have seen, at least from the other side. This is a picture of a few of the type of situations for those who have not gone on one of these trips. You see a lot of skin diseases that are usually in San Antonio. You see a lot of dental problems. One of the guys that I remember, it was interesting that one of the dentists was able to take a bullet out of a guy's side that he just left in there for years. And he said, well, I guess I can take it out. And he just popped it right out. So, I mean, you're kind of thrown into a lot of very interesting and different situations. One of the things that I wanted to show you was just two stories of two kids that are the type of people that you'll say goodbye to and usually say, oh, so cute, can we take a picture? And you take a picture, you put it up on Instagram, or maybe even print it off and have it on your refrigerator. And a lot of people, their hearts go out to these type of people, and it's nice to know a little bit beyond sentimentalism, because they're real people with real situations. And I wanted to introduce you to Shayliani. Shayliani, 1 week, she did not get to go to the short-term mission. Her mother was unable to take her to the doctors to be seen when they were there, but she came by afterwards. About a week after, she was passing by our admin house, and she asked if she could see me. I have no training. But I was able to talk to a Brazilian doctor that was inspired by the short-term mission to be the type of person that, yes, I want to take care of people and that cannot pay. So Shayleani got off and she showed me her arm. I didn't know what this was, but does somebody know what it is? But we had tons of medicines that were left. And this group was, the family was just at the clinic, the neighborhood clinic. They were coming back from the clinic and they just got a number and had to wait, oh, come in next week. And so you have this story of Shayleani, who was able to be seen by a Brazilian doctor who was inspired by the short-term mission and used the medicines that were appropriate and much better than she could get at the clinic. And so just imagine how many of these Shayleanis are people that you will never see. You will never see these people. These are invisible people, but they are affected by you. If you should decide to be the type of person to give a little bit back. And I'm not saying you have to go to Brazil. I'm just saying in the bigger picture, we need to realize there's a lot more happening than just me and my mission going to meet these people. And I wanted to show you something very personal. Let me read you the verse before I go on. Paul in Philippians 1:26, he says that he was wrestling if he should go and be with the Lord right away, or if he should stick around with the Philippians. And he says, you know what? I think I'm going to stay with you because I long for your. I think it would be good for your progress and your joy in the faith. And he says, and through my being with you again, your joy in Jesus Christ, or Christ Jesus, will overflow on account of me. Do you see what he's trying to say? He's saying that my life is about overflowing. I've received a blessing and I want to pass it on to you. And the natural process should be that the people that we touch are not just receiving the blessing, they're learning a style of living also that is modeled by Jesus. That a person receives and they will also bless. So Shayleani, in this bigger picture, Shayleani is the type of person who may grow up and she will give back too. And she will be used by the Lord because she is inspired by your modeling of that. I wanted to introduce you to one other person. It's Lucas. We love Lucas. Jannet and I love Lucas. If you see, his hand had a cut. A doctor helped him out because he cut inside his house. He had this, I think it's because I'm looking down. He cut his hand on the metal trash can, which was just inside his house, and he cut his finger almost off. But he was able to get hand surgery. It cut through the nerves, so he was able to get hand surgery from a doctor, another Brazilian doctor that knew another doctor in another city, and this was after a short-term mission. This doctor was attracted to our mission because we have people like you. Yeah. So I put Lucas's picture up here to tell you a little bit about his story. And I used Psalm 23, thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemy. This word presence is a word in Hebrew called Megiddo. And Megiddo is the type of word that means face-to-face, engaged, almost like the sumo wrestlers ready to go at each other. So God, for some reason, he places his people face-to-face, or Megiddo, with the problems of the world, the investments of evil. It's not right that some people should have access to good medical treatment and others. That's not fair. That's the consequences of evil. Thou anointest my head with oil, and here comes that same idea. My cup, it doesn't say my cup is just totally full. It says my cup runneth over. This is an idea in the Hebrew Bible that even speaks of the style of living that Jesus was modeling, that anything about God's blessing should be received for the person, but also overflow to others. Lucas, shortly after one of these trips, his mother was assassinated or murdered. Here's Lucas paying attention to Timmy the Tooth. You see Lucas right here, the curly hair. He loved any interaction with the group, the teaching, the projects that we have. His mother was shot right out in front of this door right here. You see the bullet holes? She was shot in the wee hours of the morning. We don't know a whole lot about the reason why she was killed, but we found out that it was a neighbor that had killed his mother, and the community, the poor community that we service, decided that that person should not be able to live there in that community anymore, and they burned down his house within a day. You see the type of atmosphere, the type of evil that is around some of these people that you come and see for a day or a moment, sitting in the doctor's chair or playing with them just for a few hours. You're in a bigger context. Well, Lucas, when someone from San Antonio found out that his mother had been killed, they sent money to me so that I could go take him out and have like a man-to-man talk with him. And I had enough money sent that I could buy a cap and a shirt for he and Lucas and his brother Guillermo and his little brother Vinicius. We took them to Burger King. First time that they had ever set foot in the mall, the shopping mall of their own city. And I think that the thing that was more attractive to them than anything else was the escalator. I couldn't get them off the thing. They went up and down and up and down. They had never seen an escalator in their lives. But shortly after we came here on this trip, we found out that Lucas has been taken away, and we don't know where he is now, because his father was a hitman, an assassin, and the police caught up with him, and Child Services took him and put him somewhere else. All of his whole family. So I don't know what's going to happen when we get back, but I will say that Lucas's life has been touched with some positive. And we're going to have to just leave that in God's hands for the bigger picture. What I don't agree with somebody trying to be so organized that you're going to do A to Z in someone's life. That's not even in our capacity as parents. We cannot make decisions and live the other person's life, but we can make some short-term investments. And guess what? The New Testament is totally full of one-time encounters. And a lot of times we don't even know the name of the person, but we know about one little encounter that made a huge difference. So I would like to say that even though the person may not remember your name, they remember the kindness. They remember that type of unnatural or supernatural smile or willingness to bless. Because most people in an evil setting, it's like, what's in it for you? And when they find out that there's nothing in it for you, they encounter a love that they've never understood. And we call that the gospel. An unmerited love. throw some more pictures out here. Will they remember me? The power of one encounter. This girl right here, I don't know where she is exactly. I do know that she came to us and told us that she was invited to go to Norway. If you know what I mean, she was living in poverty, and somebody invited her to go to Norway and live life there. But it's human trafficking. So a person that was so touched by this encounter, this type of love, when they are in a situation where they just are face to face with the ugliest of things, they will think back at these times. And so just have to trust in one-time encounters. I wanted to say that this is very personal for me. This is my son right here. This is Johnny. But I have 3 sons. We have Alex. He lives in Dallas, and we have the second one. He decided to become a dentist. And he said that my heroes were the heroes since he was, how old? 3 years old, you said. He already decided he wanted to become a dentist because he saw things like this. See, my sons were able to speak both Portuguese and English, and they had to be the interpreters. So they're sitting side by side with some pretty interesting procedures, and getting to see what sometimes only second or third year students get to see in dental school. So this has a collateral effect. I remember one time I was in St. Louis, and it was a heat wave, and we were given some fans to distribute among the people who were sweltering in the heat. And we came to one location, and the lady was so drugged out, I guess, that she just just put it over there. And she wasn't grateful. She didn't have that heart that we could see, like, oh, it made a big difference for her. But her next door neighbor said, "What are you doing?" And we said, "Oh, we're from this church, and we're distributing fans." And so she said, "Hey, you're from a church? Can you come and teach my son some of the Bible? He's going in the wrong way." So we set up this study, and then later on I found out that she became kind of like a pillar of that community. But it was collateral effect. I did not intend to do anything for her. Basically, she just saw, she was a bystander, seeing an act of kindness. So what I'm trying to alert you to is that, yes, you will go down and you will remember certain names of people, but if you believe in a bigger plan, you have no idea, and you don't even need to know what type of effect, who is going to be affected for a lot longer. Don't worry about being more than just the part that God has given to you. This is a ex-slave community that was found 10 years ago. Of course, they were hiding out, but they were just isolated. They never let anyone of lighter skin live with them until about 10 years ago. And this is one of the pastors there. This pastor is called Ejiva. And he had a donkey, and we decided to talk about the story of the Good Samaritan. So he said, "I've got a donkey, I can bring it and show the kids." And this little guy right here, he's the person that was attacked on the road to Jericho. But these kids will never remember that, but also, I mean, they will never forget that. But they also will never forget that Pastor Ejiva, he brought all those people. And he took care of my grandmother's teeth. And so what you're leaving is an empowerment to the Pastor Ejivans of the world, because they become like local heroes. Recently, we teamed up with other Brazilian dentists because we don't want to say, here we have a group from the United States coming and they know how to do everything, let them do everything. But when you value the local authorities, you're going to be associating God's love and blessing with the local people. This is a clinic which includes psychologists and directors and dentists, dental assistants. And we actually got to use their clinic. More pictures of times with kids, showing kindness to people that have real problems. Okay, I want to squeeze in just one last lesson, which is a biblical lesson. First of all, I wanted to show these pictures. These are some of the people that went through this, but they subsequently decided to give their lives to Christ and were baptized. So what you're seeing is more than just your visit. What happens after? Some of the kids from the families began to trust us more. We started a karate class, and we decided that we tried to give some discipline, not only just give them a fish, but teach them how to fish and have discipline. And so it's been a blessing to several lives, a life changer. We also have music classes. We also have a ballet group for little girls. And this thing down here was the first time that we had the ballet group give a show, but then they invited on Father's Day, they invited their fathers to come dance. Some of those girls were crying so, I was there in the meeting before, they were crying so much because their father, it was the first time that they would ever dance with their father. It was such a touching memory. And for that type of, what I'm saying is this is not your short-term mission, but these are people that gave us more trust because you came at that one time. Okay, I want to end with this. Genesis, if you are a believer in the Hebrew Bible, the account of creation, I want to say that I don't take it as a science book, but I do take it as a book that talks a lot about the quality of relationships. And I wanted to talk about one specific thing that I think is very important to understand in the Hebrew message of creation. If anyone knows the creation story from Genesis, they know that there are 7 days. The world is created in 7 days, right? 7th day being rest. So actually the work is on 6 days. All of the creation is on 6 days. Read that again, and you will notice a very strange thing. Light is day 1. Firmament, which means sky, and waters are day 2. And dry land is on day 3, with plants and seeds. Look what happens. Day 4 is sun, moon, and stars. Is this a science book? Because if light was created on day 1, and we're talking about sun, moon, and stars only on day 4, I think the message is lost if you don't pay attention to something that's interesting on 5 and 6. 5 and 6, out of all the animals to be created, only fish and birds are chosen. What is on day 2? Sky and water. They're elements. And on day 6, it's not just people, but it's any other animal and man, Adam, Ish, on day 6 because they go with the land. What I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to show in a very simple way is that the message of this creation is that God creates a domain, 3 different domains, and then he comes back and gives someone to have dominion over that. In fact, that word, dominion over, is always, in the place where the Hebrew Bible talks about the image of God, I am convinced, after my study, that the Hebrew puts Rabbah and Radah. They almost look exactly the same. Rabbah is to have dominion over, and it's translated govern. And Radah is to grow, to multiply. So you see the sun and moon and stars, it says that the sun is supposed to govern the day, and the moon and stars are supposed to govern the night. And so what am I trying to talk about creation for? I'm trying to talk about your life. I'm trying to talk about your set of skills, your opportunities. When I came over here and I was thinking, how many of you are in the first year? Did you ever pinch yourself when you actually started walking on the campus for the first time? I mean, you tried to act like, yeah, this is normal for me, but you were like, am I really here? Did I really get in? Did I really pass? Did the financial aid really come through for me to get I can't believe it. And what you saw at that moment was God saying, come on in, this is your deliverance. And I want you to govern this. I want you to govern this well, because I'm giving it to you, because I don't want to do everything. I take pleasure in giving a domain, but having people come and govern well. That's what he does with Jesus, because Jesus has this really strange, shocking, extraterrestrial way of governing his resources, which means I take my resources and I'm not doing it only for myself. I'm doing it for others and fitting in a bigger purpose. And it's not just about love and world peace. It's about God's purposes and believing in a greater, kind God that knows how to take care of these Shaleonis when I don't even have a clue of what really will take care of her social needs and her medical needs, her dental needs. I don't even know what her psychological problems are. But I know that I can be a part, I can govern well my life and my resources, and I can give back a little bit. And so I wanted to challenge you with this Hebrew message to see your life in that way. Some of you, maybe for the first time, you're going to take steps in these years to be kind of like a Michael Cole, who said, when I got into dental school, he says, I made a promise to God at that moment, if you could get me through, if you could let me finish, I will go on a short-term mission and give back to some people every single year of my life. And he has done that for how many years? I don't know, maybe 30 years. And you will become like the dentist that I talked to last night that said, I did it to really understand who I am. So I leave you with that, and I guess Scott and Mitzi, I just thought Mitzi Roberts has a name, perfect name for like an actress, don't you think, Mitzi Roberts? And Scott, is your last name Phillips? You have the perfect name for like being a tool of God. May everybody be a tool of God.